Code for GovTech. Moving forward, what is DPG SCoRe? So since we've been working on building communities and building these open source developer networks around digital public goods, we realized that there is not much information and knowledge out there that is documented with respect to what is happening right now to communities around digital public goods. So that was the major gap that we saw in the ecosystem. And we realized that, okay, we are working so much in this space and we have so many insights that we could, share with the larger network. So let's do that. And that's when the idea of DPG SCoRe came about into, existence, where we thought that let's talk to as many product builders as we can, and also contributors as we can, and understand what is it that the developers are looking for, and what is it that the product builders are looking at, what is it that the DPG product owners are looking at, and let's present it, and let's come up with those insights and engage on those insights in the ecosystem as well. So we did it last year, and this is the second edition. And this year we are actually co-authoring it with the Digital Public Goods Alliance. So we have last year we did not, all the products that we spoke about were not digital public goods, but this year all the products that we are talking about are digital public goods. And we thought that, okay, what better partner than having the Digital Public Goods Alliance themselves to also engage and write this with us, because they have a global view of what's happening and a much larger zoomed out vision of what's happening in the ecosystem. So yeah, so this year we partnered with DPGA, and we'll also hear from Liv in a minute. But a quick glimpse into just the coverage this year. So we have spoken to 31 DPG product owners. So these are in-depth interviews and also some follow-up calls and discussions with the product owners. Some of you are there in the call today. Then 362 individual developers who have filled the survey as contributors in the ecosystem. So these are mostly from India. We have a few, of course, folks also from other parts of the world, but this is more rooted into India. And overall, across product owners, there are 10 countries that are represented and 13 domains that we have covered. And if we were to look at what is the output of all of this, has been 20 in-depth insights across different dimensions of community building, of engaging with contributors. And there are 8 case studies that we have written, again, which are across different stages of how do you build community, where we have highlighted certain organizations who are doing certain initiatives that can be adopted by the larger group as well, or maybe looked upon for inspiration by the larger group, larger ecosystem. So that's a quick glimpse. Now I would like to invite Liv. So Liv is the CEO of Digital Public Goods Alliance. She has spearheaded the creation and the launch of DPGA, translating the UN Secretary General vision into the global open source movement. And she holds more than almost 15 years of experience with the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, leading major digital innovation projects and capacity building in the developing nations. So her deep expertise in this domain is what we can see translating as part of the work that she's doing at DPGA as well. And really happy to have you here today, Liv. Would love to hear from you on what are your thoughts on this report, and just generally what's happening in the community building space in the DPG world.
Thank you so much, Alicia. I'm confirming that you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear.
We can hear you.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I am going to make sure that my good colleagues, Bolaji and Ricardo, come in on the more kind of substantial points on what we're doing on community building, because they are the ones who are really driving that. But I did want to just come in, first of all, with my appreciation, because I think for us, this is tremendously strategically important work at the DPGA, because I mean the DPGA is all about how digital public goods as this subset of the open source universe can help accelerate the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. And that means that the understanding that we're getting from this report is critically important for us for understanding how we can help also sustain DPGs and attract support for them. And that is something we are definitely trying to do more of in a number of ways. And some of them are very directly relevant to this call. So thank you so much for inviting us in for this year's report and for being able to kind of tag along on the great work you did last year. So just to start with that. And then to the insights. So I want to, as I said, I want to give Balaji and Ricardo the opportunity to go more in depth and also how we're relating to them. But I actually, and particularly given that you mentioned, that you had also served many Indian developers for the report, I am actually going to quote Nandan Nilekani because I've had many conversations with him throughout these last years, and he taught me this concept that I know resonates or is well known in the Indian setting, which is roti, return on. But the roti is the kind of daily bread, so it means bread. It's something that is the staple of everyday life. But when Nandan says it, it also means return on time invested. This is actually a true story because I managed to convince Nandan to come to Norway to attend this. We have this weird conference annually that's called the Arendelle Week. So it takes place in in a weird coastal city. It's super expensive, very crowded, and Nandan actually traveled there because I convinced him that his roti would be high enough. And that brings me to and roti for him was very much impact oriented, I will say that. But that brings me to the point that I wanted to stress here and why I'm pulling up this concept that I also use very much internally with my team, because I looked at some of the key insights from the report and, what is it that are identified as key challenges for those that are actually contributing to DPGs, but also for those that are contributing to open source, but not yet to digital public goods. So I saw that the top challenge for contributors is a lack of time. And for non-contributors, it is also among the top 3 challenges. Awareness is so there are other challenges, but lack of time is one of them. And I think that is probably the topic, and that topic has many different dimensions because return can mean so many different things. But I would really, really love to get insights in this conversation from this group and to continue to work with you on how can we increase the roti, as in the return on time invested, so that more of those that are already contributing to DPGs feel like it's worth their time to do that at the same level or even more. And also for those that are not yet contributing, if we can address some of these other challenges, how can we really make sure there is a return on that time invested? And I actually think this is the most important insight and finding I would like to pull up, because to me it really resonated and it covers so many other things, because what that return looks like, that can be visibility, it can be career opportunities, it can be mentoring opportunities, it can, there are all sorts of motivators here. And I think, we need to kind of pick them apart a bit. And that's also what you're doing, I feel, in this report. But to anchor it back in that concept of return on time invested is something I think would be a great way to think about this collectively moving forward. And yeah, so I think I will almost stop there because I don't want to take away time from the actual discussion, but I very much welcome this work. Hope there will be a report next year too. We would love to partner for that too. And I really look forward to hearing reflections from this group about how we can increase your return on time invested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liv. Love the roti full form. I think now every time I'm going to be eating roti, I'm going to be thinking about it. And that is pretty much my staple. So 2 meals a day, I'm eating roti. So it's really interesting. I think nobody has explained return on time investment like you have done. So great. And of course, thanks to Nandan for this analogy. It's going to stick with us. I'm going to now hand it over to Parth to take us through some of the insights from the report. Of course, we won't be able to discuss all of those, but we wanted some thought starters, some insights that have stood out for us, and wanted to share that with all of you. And of course, we'll have some time to discuss those as well. Over to you, Parth.
Thanks, Sharza. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Great. So for the report, there were two primary stakeholders that we dealt with. One is the product owners, the different DPGs who are building and maintaining their products. And on the other side, they are contributors. They are basically individual developers who are either active contributors in open source or are prospective contributors in open source, but they are predominantly in the field of tech. What we did is for contributors, we sent out asynchronous surveys for them to fill. But with the product owners, we got into one-on-one interviews and in-depth conversations to get out the insights. So again, the report is a little larger and we'll not be able to cover everything. But the ask is to give some flavor of what is coming out, some key insights, some which are thought-provoking in nature. So let's begin on the contributor side first. How we'll do this is we'll use polls in between. So I'll again ask the same question that we asked maybe the contributors, and we'll see what assumptions are running in the room which we have. So Mudit from my team will be posting the polls, and let's start by asking the first question, which is what percentage of open source contributors do you think are aware of DPGs? So if you can open the poll window and just mark your answer. Maybe we can take 10 odd seconds for that. Is everyone able to find the polls? I think it's on the bottom right hand corner. Yeah. Cool. I see responses coming up. Yeah. I think half of the audience has voted. We'll just take another couple of seconds. Yeah. Mudit, we can close the poll.
Sure.
Let's share it. Share the results with everyone. Yeah. So interesting reading in the room. I think most of you have guessed that the awareness is on the lower side. I think some are more optimistic and say that more than 80% are aware. I think it's pretty extreme. But we found out actually, and let me go to the insight now, is again less than 20% are aware. 81% of the broader open source contributors say they are not aware of DPGs. Now, while there is a whole funnel to the developers that we've spoken with, around 222 who were contributing actually, and a few of them have been contributing to DPG. So that is a good thing to have. But the larger segment, the larger audience, which is more open source contributors, they face the biggest challenges not being aware of DPGs. So the point here that we can get is, while DPGs is a subset of open source in general, it is more focused towards fulfilling the SCG goals with open data, open standards, open code base, and everything. And it is more a recent phenomena. It has come up in 3 to 5 years, and it is newer than the larger open source ecosystem which is developed. But we cannot assume that awareness is a given. I mean, collectively, as product owners, as parts of the ecosystem, I think we have to spend time and resources, dedicated time and resources to push this awareness. So this is one thing that we felt is a big challenge, a clear delta. Yeah. So what we'll do is also, I forgot to mention, we'll take the questions collectively towards the end, and you can note whatever insights struck you or stood out, and if you have any more clarifications, and that we can take up later. Moving on to the next insight, next question. Again, I'll ask Mudit to put up a poll for this. What do you think is the biggest motivator for the contributors? And many of us have been contributors ourselves in the past, and we did it for many reasons. And we all deal with a lot of contributors who are doing it today. What do you think is the biggest motivator? So it can be, learning, skill development, to maybe financial incentives, anything under the sun. Again, I would ask the audience to use the votes.
I can't see the poll. Where is the poll? Oh, I have to go to the poll.
Yeah, the poll tab again. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can scroll if you're not able to see anything.
Yeah. We just wait for a couple of more seconds. Yeah, fun is something that we didn't explore. It's a valid option which we realize later. Yeah, we'll definitely keep it next time. Cool. I think half of the audience has voted now. Mudit, you can close the poll. So what is coming out is again a sense of recognition and achievement. So the room is split actually in terms of more impact and recognition and sense of achievement elements. And then on one side, there is the opportunity to enhance CV and skill development as an angle, but a little less on the learning front is what I'm seeing. What actually happened, what actually came up is that this question was a multiple choice question, by the way, for the contributors, but we wanted to stick to the single aspect here. Skill development, career opportunities, and networking came as the biggest motivator for a lot of the contributors. An interesting point that we also noted in doing this exercise is there are two cohorts. One is the emerging contributors, and one is the seasoned contributors. Emerging ones are newer entrants to open source. If I were to say, they are the students or early career working professionals with basically less than 5 years of open source exposure. And the seasoned folks are the ones who have contributed to open source for more than 5 years now. They behave very differently when it comes to different aspects. We'll discuss that later. But for emerging, it's safe to say that learning and upskilling comes to be the biggest motivator. And for seasoned contributors, it's more of a sense of belongingness to community and recognition and feeling that fulfillment by basically giving back. So very two different sense of motivations. Another interesting thing that you'd note is financial compensation. Last year as well, this came out as the least sort of effective motivator, and this year also, which reflects that I think open source is not the place where contributors come to make money, and it is not the biggest sort of motivator or incentive provider. I mean, things can change. We can leverage this motivator better. But right now, the contributors are not concerned with the financial compensation bit of it. So if this differs with your experience, you can put it in the chat box. Cool. So the next insight. What percentage of contributors do you think need a weekly touch point with the mentors? So we have, again, I'll ask you to go back to the polls, but I'll ask you to try to remember the conversation that you had with your contributors and the experience in different mentoring programs while running the projects. It's always a tussle that contributors claim that they don't have enough mentorship, and you say that, okay, I'm giving enough mentorship. So what is that break even? What is that fine balance? So to answer to your question, Lindsay, the contributor batch, the cohort covers 20 countries, but predominantly it is India based. I'd say 90% is based out of India. That is also due to our geographical proximity to the communities here, us able to reach more communities in India is the reason. Yeah, we have votes coming in. Yeah. Another couple of seconds. Great. Mudit, we can close the poll and share the results. The room is evenly split on this one, and that reflects the confusion that the contributors also have. That somewhere the expectation is there that we'll get mentorship. Some may say we don't get enough mentorship, and so on. What came out actually first is an overall dearth of mentorship in general. So contributors overall felt that lack of mentorship is a big challenge. Not mentoring not being there. The interesting thing to note that the emerging contributors, the ones who are new to open source and new to contributions, they need a lot higher touch points in the beginning, and also more frequent touch points, say 60% of them saying at least on a weekly basis. Now, because as DPG product owners, we are also seasoned contributors ourselves. So we more sort of resonate with the seasoned contributors and saying, okay, let's do the touch points more on a milestone basis. So whenever they, whenever it's a PR review, whenever it's a more architecture discussion or any debottlenecking discussion, then we can get mentoring done. But the expectation mismatch is very clear. So the younger folks in the ecosystem need a lot more mentoring. And the seasoned folks, they don't need a fixed cadence of mentoring as such. So again, the call to action is, I think it will be good if we read the next insight first for a call to action here. But the idea is, if we recognize that this kind of difference is there in the expectations, we can target our mentoring to that cohort. Maybe give high touch mentoring early on for emerging contributors to help them perform better. Question related to it, but more on the retention side. How much time does an average contributor spend on a single project? By project, it's also, I'm calling repository as a project here. That if they are onboarded to a particular project, how long do you think they stick around? Because we also face this problem of onboarding many contributors, but them not sticking around, and it's a huge funnel drop to finally active contributors contributing to the project. Again, I'd request folks to do it on polls. I mean, as C4GT, we have faced this quite a lot, where we bring in people and then after a certain time, there is a drop. So that's a daily struggle for C4GT as well. Nice. It's coming like a bell curve. I'll request Mudit to share the results with everyone in a couple of seconds. Yeah. So a lot of you in the room think that it peaks at around 3 months and then it tapers off. Some stick around for 3 months to 1 year, and then very few stick around for longer period, which is pretty much the reality. So this is what actual self-reported results came out from the contributor side. The emerging contributors, it's a clear inflection point for them. 75%, nearly 70% of them, they drop off after 3 months and they keep switching projects. Thanks, Akhil. And for seasoned contributors, it is opposite. It's totally the opposite, where they stick around for more than 1 year, even 3 years or more for a large chunk of them. Now, the one reason is because, again, the motivator for the emerging contributors is learning, upskilling, and they are also evolving in the journey of contributing. So they keep on finding projects, they keep on switching projects until they find the right fit based on their skills and interests. So this insight combined with the previous insight, I think this can give a powerful intervention where we can onboard emerging contributors, and considering 3 months is an inflection point, we can give high touch mentoring and very close guidance for that initial 3-month period. So something like a mentoring program, a Google Summer of Code, or any other mentoring program, campaign, or anything that we run, I think would give these emerging contributors enough quick wins, enough feedbacks, so that they are able to find value in the short period in which they stick. So this one was really interesting to us. Again, all these call to actions can be thought of in the way we are running our initiatives, our projects on a daily basis. Moving on. Yeah. So again, these are only 4 insights that I shared, just because again, paucity of time and how much return on time invested we want in this presentation. But I'm sharing a glimpse of all the insights that we have. I will request everyone to go into a lot more depth by reading the report that I'll share at the end. Cool. Moving on to the product owner side. Now, this is a different cohort where there is a lot more depth, and the journeys of every product owner, whether they started in open source, whether they open source their products later, what are their focus areas, what are their goals, they're all very different. So it is very subjective journey as far as product owners are concerned. That's why we also gave this cohort a closer look. While we were doing the one-on-one interviews and doing the in-depth discussions, you would also realize that there were a lot more probing questions into the community building side and also exploring the adoption side this time. What are the challenges that the product owners face for adoption? So what we actually did was to define a framework first on how do you measure community building in general, considering that the journeys are very different for these product owners. So what we came up with is a set of inputs which are very basic, which is a very basic recipe for good community building, and a set of outputs which reflect whether community building is taking shape in the proper manner, whether the inputs are leading to the outputs in general. So inputs, for example, would be having a community manager in place, and the metric associated with that, how many of the product owners have community manager in place. Similarly, mentoring time would be another aspect. How much mentoring time are you giving to external contributors, to open source contributors in general? So these are the input metrics, and on the output metrics, predominantly to do with the size of it. How big is the community? How big is the active contributor pool? The folks who contributed in say last 1 quarter or 6 months. How many new members are we able to add? And finally, the percentage of code base that is being contributed by the community, because that is the overall measure of how much do you rely on contributions to that extent. So once we did this exercise and we plotted each product owner's journey across these metrics, we found 3 clear cohorts separating out. So the 5 at the bottom, they clearly mentioned that they are not building a community. They are open source, but right now their priorities lie elsewhere. So community building was not a priority for them. From the remaining 26 folks, there were 4 community champions that we identified, which basically were a dark green, I'd say, or met the benchmark on all the input and output parameters. So that is something that we took as a benchmark for the organizations or for the product owners, that this is where we aspire to be. And the aspiring builders, the remaining folks, are somewhere in between in that journey. That there are some things that are hits for them, something that they are missing, something that they can work upon. So this is how we defined it, and so the insights are also shaped for these 2 different cohorts, and we'll see some insights separately as well. But once we plot it again on a scorecard, which we call as community snapshot, this scorecard is the recurring annually recurring scorecard that we want to anchor the community building measurement to. And every year we come back and say that, okay, a group of DPGs or the ecosystem overall is headed in what direction. So here we clearly can see that on an input, on say input parameters, we have the metrics, we have the community champions who have sort of met the benchmark at very high level, and the aspiring builders who have hits and misses. So some things are going well. For example, the PR resolution time is broadly similar for everyone. So the response time actually is good. So responsiveness, everybody is proactive in our sample set. But 2 clear misses that I think can capture is not the community manager not being in place. I think this is something that we have also realized in in last year as well, that can add a lot of value immediately. And the broader, I think, discussion on the mentorship is that the community champions are just spending a lot more time in mentoring, and that's why they are the output metrics are also translating into giving them a lot more value. So when we come to output parameters, again, the metrics of size are there. The community champions are now having larger communities, larger talent pools to access to, and the important part is the last one, the value derived. So for the community champions, automatically as a result of both inputs and outputs going right, the value derived on a scale of 5 is 4.75. It's pretty high because the goals that they set out with they are now able to meet those goals. And again, it's a more mid-range value for the aspiring builders. And I think there is a delta here that can be captured. So this is again the community snapshot that we can go to the depths of in the report. And again, after this, we have some insights again from the DPG product owners on an overall basis. What came out? There's another more. I believe this is the last poll that we'll do. But I'll request again to go to the polling stations and tell us why do DPG product owners want to build an open source community? Very basic foundational question that reflects the goals of why somebody would set out to the community building exercise. Yeah, are we voting again? Yes. Great. Yeah. Few more seconds. Yeah, I think a lot of uh, personal experiences. Of course, the folks that we interviewed, they would remember these questions, and I will try to recall what they answered. But yeah, let's pause the poll and share the responses. Cool. So increased sustainability stands out clearly as the topmost motivator. I mean, the topmost reason why I would want to go ahead and build the open source community. And the room is split on faster development, improved product quality, and 0 votes for cost efficiency. So this is an interesting thing because very much reflects what we captured as well in all these insights. Uh, that faster development, sustainability, and product quality improvement come out as the biggest reasons why you'd want to go build an open source community. Uh, Cost efficiency actually is an interesting one because when we started, when DPG build, product owners they start building it, the cost efficiency is an afterthought. It is not the first reason why you would go and build a community. But when we later on asked what values have you been able to derive, what are the benefits coming out of community building, this was a big one. So I think it is coming as a benefit once you have gone and been through that journey as a byproduct, but it is not a core proposition for community building. An interesting thing that also came out during the discussions, and we had not kept this as an option, was just on a principle basis. So a lot of DPG product owners have also been open source champions when they were contributing themselves, and they just wanted to do it because principally they are very much aligned with the ethos of open source and and sharing and shared ownership basically of open source. So very again interesting reflection on the goals that people start with. One insight that I would give you a flavor is the adoption one. What do you think is the biggest challenge to adoption? This we'll do without poll. Again, very because in the interview also in the interview that discussions that we did again, very few and very skewed reasons came out. So a lot of you would expect that funding uncertainty is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to adoption, and this we keep hearing on a conversation basis all the time that funding uncertainty is a big concern. The second biggest concern with adoption was that generally there is a very little awareness on with the government institutions, with the partner institutions, specifically for the DPGs, which are dependent on governments to deploy. So there, the awareness also is a big problem. Now, while the immediate call to action would look like, okay, the funding should be more, the funding should be more long-term, more certain. But I think it is fair to say that funding is finite. There is only a limited funding pool that can be accessed. So I think the call to action would be to find alternate revenue streams to make the product sustainable. Now, some product owners have tried to do that by, say, building a SaaS product, having different tiers of revenue generating mechanism. For example, if you deploy it for a social cause, then it's free of charge. But when you do it at an enterprise level, it has its own revenue streams, maybe attaining consulting revenue, etc. All these are different things which we received from our interviews. And again, a call to action for the funders, if the folks are listening here in the present, that whenever we fund a DPG product owner, I think a focus outright can be having the sustainability plan in view, because that is something that becomes critical at a 2 or 3 year period when we do the funding. So a clear focus outright on the sustainability of a product can be helpful in alleviating some of these challenges outright, so they can become a part of the building journey itself. So again, not every insight can be captured, sharing a glimpse of how the insights look like overall on the product owner side as well. There is a lot more on different aspects, different phases of community building in general. So again, giving you a flavor of what kind of insights are there. Another interesting thing that we did this time that we didn't do last year that to that extent is a little deep dive into the case studies. So while we discussed with different product owners, there were a lot of interesting things that were actually being done. Some of them are, new to some of them are really innovative. Some of them are like really good implementation of a very basic thing. So what we tried to capture is across 4 key parameters, not key parameters, I'd say key parts of the value chain of a contribution, from onboarding to incentivizing to maybe mentoring and then adoption also. What are the best practices that we found some DPG product owners were using? And we've tried to encapsulate it and share it with the larger group as well. So these were the case studies that we have mentioned this time. Again, the depths of it, everything is available in the report, and we can take time to find the ones which suit the requirement of your product more. But I can take a few mentions, maybe mentoring, since mentoring was a key discussion point that we had here. I take OpenMRS's case study. Now, OpenMRS has really doubled down on mentoring if they find the right talent pool. I'm not sure if Grace is on the call, but what they've done is basically engaged with Google Summer of Code for nearly 2 decades now. And yeah, Grace is here. Thanks, Grace. They've also engaged with C4GT for last 1 or 2 years, but at the same time, have their own OpenMRS fellowship program that really double clicks on the mentoring aspect of it. So the initial part where an emerging contributor is joining for the first 3 months, they really do high touch mentoring. So that kind of brings a pool of superstars every year from these mentoring programs and help them create a good talent pipeline for the year they manage. So that's how they've been able to create a ladder of really talented individuals in the community. Another organization, I think, very heavy on mentoring, and we have heard very great, good stories from them is MeFOS. So the MeFOS initiative, again, leverages Google Summer of Code and Code for GovTech well. But one thing that they do really well, and I'd the folks who have seen the MeFOS initiatives LinkedIn, so they do these shout outs and appreciations and recognition very frequently for the contributors. So if there is a group call, if there is an event and conference that they are participating in, they'll give this opportunity to the contributors to go showcase and then recognize their contribution on the social media. So I think again from a very, very basic motivation level, they are able to address the non-monetary incentive that can push a contributor, give those wins to the contributors early in their journey, so that also there is a sort of feel good about the contributions that they're doing. On adoption, I can maybe take an example of MOSIP. For a lot of DPGs who depend on system integrators to do the last mile adoption, this is a good case in point which came out that they've built a MOSIP partner program where the different system integrators can become a part of this program with very clear value propositions of what they gain by becoming a part, which can be training, in-depth trainings and participation in different conferences, access to different resources. And this also gives governments a lot of trust because the SIs themselves are coming from a very, very polished or very well executed training program. So by this, I think the MOSIP team has also been able to quickly deploy and also do at-scale deployments across geographies. I think they're present in around 30 countries. So this program has really helped them push the adoption further. So these are, I can take more names, but again, this is also a flavor of how the cases are looking like. If any of the problem statement is something that resonates with you, I'd request you to go and probe, even reach out to these product owners for more insights and more depth into how they did it and why they did it. Cool. Again, this is how the case studies look like. The 8 of them are presented all in the report. We can go through each of them. So this is the end of the insights from my side, and I would like to give just a huge thanks to all the participating DPG product owners. Again, not only for the time that they spent with us, but also sharing the information, which it is something that they have done, again, very, very aligned with the open source ethos, that if there is something that's out there in the open for everyone to access. So I think this whole sharing of information they very freely did. and not only of the information, but also the challenges. Very, very candid discussions with the DPG product owners that we had this time. So a huge thanks to all present on the call and those who couldn't make it to them as well. I'll be sharing the report separately to everyone who's there on the call and also who couldn't join. So again, huge shout out. I'll take a pause here for questions. I see a lot of comments in the chat board, and if any insights struck you, we can also would love to hear from you. I'll just take a pause here.
Thank you, Parth. And I would also like to add to that, just inviting Bolaji and Ricardo to share their thoughts as well. Of course, none of them would have been possible without them helping us, facilitating us with these conversations. So Bolaji, Ricardo, from your experience of also being active in the open source community, as well as now being part of the DPG world, what is that connector?
Thanks, Shalisa, and this is great insights that were gathered, and I think it builds on the very great work from last year. It's definitely like nice to see the evolution and how contributors are also thinking about DPGs. For me, I want to just retake one comment that I think it was made by someone in the chat, which is just, yeah, it was Jan who said about like he was missing the fun option as an alternative. And I think for many of us developers that have engaged in the past, especially with these type of projects that have some sort of like social or public benefit or impact, I think that's one of the things that we value. And it's hard, of course, to quantify that into like a questionnaire or asking that in metrics. But I think it's one of the things that I've seen a lot of developers getting encouraged to participate in these projects. There's of course a lot of like libraries and like the tools that we as developers use, but just having like a mission-driven project that it's gonna benefit other people as well. I think something very important. So I just wanted to highlight that. Then I can hand it over to Valery. I think he did most of the work of connecting the product owners and do the heavy lifting, so I don't want to take any credit for that.
No, thanks, Ricardo. I don't think I would say much else. Leaving yourself has also covered quite a lot already. And I think one of the most interesting parts of the insight is trying to figure out what every single contributor needs. One of my North Star metric that I've used in the past years working with communities also is the orbit model. And that kind of like puts everyone in different layers around the orbit itself. And so every single contributor has different needs for engaging with the project. And so for DPGs, they have to figure out how to, appease to all the different needs of these different contributors enough that it could maximize the impact. And so Lee mentioned the ROTI earlier, and I think that's very important because then understanding the return that every single contributor needs, even if it's not something the DPGs themselves can provide directly, there are many ways and many forms in which that could be organized. And so I think this is very important, and I'm glad that we have this report and that also DPGs could build on top of that, take the insights and see how we could also help advance their work more forward, because it's key to sustaining DPGs themselves. I know we talk about sustainability a lot, and funding is one aspect, but this is also a way to drive that forward. So I guess kudos to the Code for GovTech team also and to all the DPG product owners who are part of this process, and we really look forward to seeing how this advances forward.
Thank you, Bolaji. Thank you, Ricardo, for the kind words. And yeah, I think I resonate with that. Some of the insights were actually reaffirmation of what we see on a daily basis when we interact with the contributors, but also some of them demystified it. So I really hope that this brings some value to the product owners, and we are able to tweak our interventions, maybe create more robust communities with this. We can take a couple of questions also. I think there's few in the chats that I think have not been answered. From Saurav. Yeah, is the interpretation that 81% open source contributors who don't contribute to DPGs don't do it because they are not aware? This can be one of the reasons, Saurav. I mean, for them to if they realize that there is a subset of open source which are digital public goods which work more towards the impact aspect of it, for those which to which this appeals, would gravitate to solving, working on more projects on DPGs. Yeah. So I think, David, you might be right that some of this would be because of the internships also being 3 months, that the inflection period is. So the mindset is also very geared towards considering these programs as internships. So I think this is also fair.
And I
Yeah.
think that point on just because the internships are three months, and that's when they're getting that in-depth mentorship. So how do we replicate that entire feeling of, feeling that you're mentored, you're guided, but not in a short span of time? But how do we sustain that over a longer period till the time they convert into more sustained contributors as well? So that's another thing that we've also been thinking about, that how do we sustain that kind of mentorship and that feeling of getting that guidance that you need.
Right. David is saying, yeah, another good question next year to the contributors would be if they see an open source project being more attractive to work on it if it's a DPG. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be a good question, good follow-up question to ask.
yeah. To also Ricardo's point on, different projects when they are aligned to a larger mission,
Right.
that itself motivates. I think that's something that we've not clearly been able to attribute, if that is something that really motivates people, if the nature of project is a DPG. So definitely we should deep dive into that.
Great. So if there are no more questions, I'd just like to do some announcement as well. Just give me a second. Yes. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Parth.
Yeah. So since this is a pre-release webinar, and we'd love to get your feedback when you read the report, and we can. There's enough time to do that at ease. We'll circulate this shortly after the webinar. But we are going to officially release it at the DPG Dialogues on 8th of December in Delhi. So to those folks who are planning to come to India or are based in and around of Delhi, or know people who can take part of this convening, I think it would be a great place. I think Bolaji from the DPGA will also be here helping us with the release of the DPG SCoRe report. Apart from that, there'll be, of course, interesting panels with a lot of senior government folks and a lot of product builders, product owners, and the contributors side, the community side also gathering and reflecting on what is the larger direction which this ecosystem is taking shape. So Mudit, I think will be sharing a link in the chat window, and we can also share it in the follow-up email as well. So for those, you can just go to the website of DPG Dialogues and look at the agenda, speakers, and just let us know if anybody is joining. Happy to also help you with the formalities. Great. Lastly, again, this is the report that we'll share, and here is a QR code which you can take to download the report right away. And do let us know if there is any feedback or any insight that you think we can, improve this year as well, and also definitely for the next year to make a better report or give better case studies, give better examples, something that we may have missed in our assessment or in our analysis. Also, we are open to feedback. So yeah, and this is it from our side. If are there any more questions, any more thoughts, points, we can have them.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate all the support.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, DPGA team. Thank you.
Have a nice evening, morning, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.